Hello everyone. Today we are going to see about an instrument which we will use in obstetrics and gynecology. As you all know about instruments, instruments play a vital role in the field of medicine for diagnosing problems, treating diseases, and also in the promotion of health. So, in obstetrics also, there are some of the instruments which are very important in pregnancy, childbirth, labor, and also in the treatment of some gynecological problems, infertility, etc. So, in that, we are going to see about Rubin's cannula. So, let's see the introduction of Rubin's cannula. So it was developed by American gynecologist Isidore Clinton Rubin in the year 1883 to 1958. He was interested in infertility. He realized that many patients suffered from tubal obstruction. He developed tubal insufflation as a non-operative method to evaluate the tubes. The instrument is based on the principle that under a certain pressure, gas can be pushed through the cervix and uterus through the tubes into the abdominal cavity, where its presence can be detected by distension and other means. So from the history, an American gynecologist, he was very much interested in infertility. So he has identified this Rubin's cannula. It is also known as insufflation cannula. Okay, so Rubin's cannula is also known as insufflation cannula. Since he is very interested in infertility, you all will be knowing inability to conceive after 1 year of successful intercourse, we will be calling it as an infertility. So he has identified this instrument. It will be very useful in treatment of infertility. It works under the principle that under a certain pressure through the cervix and the uterus, the pressure will be directed towards the tubes into the abdominal cavity. So we will be seeing about this in detail. So this is a picture of a Rubin's cannula. Okay. So this is like a long tube with a rubber like thing is attached in between. So this rubber like thing can be moved front and back based upon the length of the cervix. So this end will be introduced through the cervix into the uterus, and the rubber tubing can be adjusted according to the length of the cervix. We can push it front or back. Okay. So this is about the Rubin's cannula. So let's see about the Rubin's test. So the Rubin's test was named after the person who has identified this, that is the Rubin. For his first experiment in 1919, he used oxygen. Later he switched to carbon dioxide. As this insufflation medium is quickly absorbed, less painful and safer. So first he was introducing oxygen for doing the Rubin's test. Later he found that carbon dioxide is more safer and it is less painful. So he was using carbon dioxide for this test. His instrument and technique were later supplemented with a kymograph to record the pressure readings. So kymograph is an instrument for recording variations in pressure. Since we are applying carbon dioxide for this test, so the pressure of the gas should be monitored during the procedure. So the scientist was using this kymograph to record how much pressure he is inserting through this Rubin's cannula. The Rubin's test became a standard test to check the tubes in the investigation of causes of infertility and was claimed to be able to open up tubes in some patients with tubal occlusion. So as we have seen earlier, this cannula is very much useful in treating infertility. That is, many of the patients will be complaining of blocked tube. So in order to relieve that blocked tubes, this Rubin's cannula is very much useful. So it helps in treating this infertility. So let's see what are the indications of using this Rubin's cannula in hysterosalpingography. So what is hysterosalpingography? So hysterosalpingography is introduction of a contrast medium through the cervix into the uterus, so that the contrast medium will pass through the uterus, then through the fallopian tube it will be excreted out. Okay, so in order to find whether there is any blockage in the tubes, we will be doing this hysterosalpingography. So after the injection of this contrast medium, an X-ray will be taken. So if there is any block in the tubes, we can identify it easily in the X-ray. So for that we will be using this Rubin's cannula. So the dye will be injected through the Rubin's cannula. Next, in case of cervical incompetence. So in case of cervical incompetence, what happens? The cervix length will be decreased. So the length of the cervix will be very smaller. So in order to identify that, we will be using this Rubin's cannula for doing this Rubin's test. Then congenital anomalies of the uterus. So we will be knowing about the congenital anomalies of the uterus, such as bicornuate uterus, arcuate uterus, unicornuate uterus, diadelphous, then septate uterus. So these are some of the congenital anomalies. So while doing this test, we can identify whether there is any congenital anomalies of the uterus also. Then Asherman syndrome. So what do you mean by Asherman syndrome? Means it is a formation of scar tissue in the uterine cavity. So while doing this Rubin's test, we can identify this Asherman syndrome also. So these are some of the indications where we will be using this Rubin's cannula. So along with this, we can use this, we can add infertility also. So these are some of the indications where we will be using. Next, in the indication, the cannula is used for checking the tubal patency test for infertility, like HSC. So as we have seen earlier, in hysterosalpingography, we will be checking the patency of the tube. So for this it will be used. Then in HSD, radio opaque iodine is used. So the dye what we use is radio opaque material, that is the radio opaque iodine. Then in case of laparoscopy, methylene blue dye is injected through the cannula. So for laparoscopy purpose also we can use this Rubin's cannula. So for that we will be injecting this methylene blue dye. Next, this cannula has a rubber guard which can be adjusted to prevent backward leak of the dye. So as I have told earlier, we have a rubber like thing in the tube. In the cannula. So this we can adjust according to the length of the cervix. So what is the main purpose of this rubber is to prevent the leakage of dye outside. So when we are injecting the dye should not come out. So for that we will be adjusting this rubber guard. So these are some of the indications. Next, let's see the procedure of Rubin's test. So Rubin's test, it is a diagnostic method for determining whether the fallopian tubes in the human female are occluded. The fallopian tube are slender, hollow structures on each side of the uterus through which the eggs travel from the ovaries to the uterus. So we will be knowing about the anatomy of reproductive system. So how the eggs will be transferred. So from the ovaries, the eggs will be passing through the fallopian tube where it is fertilized. Then it will be passed on to the uterus where the fertilization will be taking place. So if there is any blockage in the tubes, what happens? The eggs cannot pass through the tube. So that leads to infertility. So in the Rubin's test, we will be finding whether the tubes are open or closed. This test is helpful in explaining certain instances of female infertility. It consists of introducing carbon dioxide into the uterus and through the fallopian tube. So we will be injecting this carbon dioxide gas through the cervix into the uterus. So from the uterus the gas will be passing through the fallopian tubes, and from the fallopian tubes the gas will be passing through the abdominal cavity. So the gas escapes into the abdominal cavity if the tubes are not occluded. Okay, if the tubes are not blocked, in the sense the gas will be passing through the abdominal cavity. So that is a positive test. The normal test finding is the gas should pass to the abdominal cavity. So during the passage of gas into the abdominal cavity, so during that time the patient or the mother will be having referred shoulder pain. Okay, so that is a positive sign. If the abdominal gas may be demonstrated by X-ray or fluoroscopy. So the abdominal gas which is passing, we can identify it with the help of an X-ray or fluoroscopy also. So this is a picture how they will do the test. So this is a Rubin's cannula. Okay. So where they are inserted into the uterus. So the contrast medium or a gas, anything based upon the procedure we will be injecting. So the gas through the cervix, it enters into the uterus. So from the uterus it will be passing through the fallopian tube to the abdominal cavity. Okay. So if the gas escapes into the abdominal cavity, the mother will be having a referred shoulder pain. That indicates positive Rubin's test. The insufflation is usually carried out at a gas pressure of less than 120 mm of mercury. The manometer reading decreases to 100 or less if the tubes are clear. If there is no blockage, in the sense the manometer reading will be decreased to 100 or less than that. If the manometer reading is between 120 and 130, there is a probability of partial stricture. Okay. If the manometer reading rises to 200 and above, it suggests that the tubes are obstructed. So if the tubes are clear, in the sense the manometer reading or the pressure of the gas will be less than 100. If there is partial stricture, the manometer reading will be between 120 and 130. If the tubes are completely obstructed, means the pressure will be rising to 200 and above. So this is about the Rubin's test. I think everyone has understood about this Rubin's test or the Rubin's cannula. Thank you so much.